we have a great technology here, and we have a good opportunity to explore it and give you tools and enable you to master the technology so that you can use it in your day-to-day or business opportunities. So this workshop is the first workshop of a series of 9 workshops. So the 3 first workshops are going to be standard, are going to be, we're going to look at Wikidata in a way, general way. And the 6 others workshop, the 6 last workshop, are going to concentrate on performing arts in Wikidata. So we're really going to explore on this in the 6 last workshop, how can you enter data that is specific to your field of work. So now we're going to start with the first block. This workshop is going to be segmented into 3 blocks. So the first one is going to cover, so let me first share my screen with you in order to, okay, this should be good. Yes, oops. Now here it is. So workshop number 1. So the part 1, we're going to explore Wikidata, the concept of a knowledge base. We're also going to explore key concepts of Wikidata. And we're going to take a look at other projects that are from the Wikimedia Foundation, especially WikiCommons. In a block number 2, the part 2, we're going to look at search engines, how they benefit from Wikidata. We're going to look at info boxes more particularly. This is a good way to see what your data in Wikidata is going to show up, where it's going to show up, and how it's going to go on the way and repercute. Sorry. We're also going to look at related data, and we're going to look at how what's the link between Wikidata and Wikipedia. So that's for part 2. For part 3, we're going to go more in depth into a particular element, how items are managed into Wikidata. So we're going to look at the definition of an item. And we'll have a little recap at the end. And this is for workshop number 1. Now, workshop number 2, we're going to explore how to modify a Wikidata item. So it's going to be more, today we're like reading, and next workshop we're going to modify. So, but that being said, let's start straight with part 1. Now, for questions, there is 2 or 3 ways you can ask questions. First of all, if in the presentation, you can put comments straight in the presentation. So I can see what interrogation you have, but you can also write into the chat your question there. And if your question is more, let's say, involving, you can also write to the email for that. So where is my chat now? There is my chat. So I'm going to put you here, the email. So that should do it. So it's workshop@cqt.capacoa.ca. So those are the 3 ways you can ask questions. So the way we're going to work is that I'm going first to explore the part and show you and teach you the basics, the knowledge of that part. And after each part, we're going to have a block of time where you will ask question, and where we can assert that you have understood the data, the information that has been presented to you in the part. So also, please note that all the documentation will be available in French and English. So And you also, the presentations are going to be recorded. So you have the ability to go back and look at different parts. But we'll have more information on that later. So let's go on and let's start part one. So part one is, we're going to talk about knowledge base. We're going to talk about triples and triplets, and we're also going to talk about glossary of terms related to Wikidata, so to give you a bit of understanding of the nomenclature and the words we're using. So knowledge base. What is a knowledge base? Well, it's a database that stores a lot of information representing triplets. Oh, sorry. What is a triple? It's the smallest statement that can be recorded for information. Let's take, for example, we know Nutcracker, which is a very known ballet. And then we know that Tchaikovsky is the guy who wrote the music for the ballet. So we have Nutcracker, and we have the link is composer, and we have Tchaikovsky. So basically, that's a triplet. You got two objects that are linked with a property. In this workshop, we will also take a look at Wikidata. Wikidata, which is a special knowledge base, which was born from efforts from the Wikimedia Foundation. Wikimedia, of course, are the people who also brought to life Wikipedia. So Wikimedia Foundation is like the big overall organization, which are located in San Francisco, and they oversee all the wikis that are part of their organization. So there's Wikipedia, there's also Wikibooks, there's also Wiktionary. There's quite a few. So let's go on and see. So precisely, Wikidata is a huge knowledge base. The characteristics of Wikidata are, first of all, it's accessible to everyone. Now this is a very important. First of all, from anywhere in the world, you can access it. You don't have to pay. Nobody has to pay. Everybody has the ability to read it. There's no people that are put aside. And actually, someone can make a big query that will result in a massive extraction of data, and there's no limitation on that. And above all, and this is the particularity of the project of the Wikimedia Foundation, is that everybody can edit them, and everybody can add up stuff, and they can contribute to. So this is really openness to everybody. Another big characteristic of Wikidata is its reusability. All the data in Wikidata are published under the free Creative Commons CC0 license. Now, CC0 license is like public domain license, which means you can use it to do, you don't have a restriction. You don't have to say from where it comes. You don't have to pay something. It's available. You can reuse it. You can generate money with that, and nobody's going to prevent you from doing that. Sorry. And the last item is that Wikidata is actually a multilingual database. That means that every entities can be named and described in any human language that are, of course, used into the realm of Wikimedia Foundation. So now let's focus on a few key concepts. An item or an entity. So this is very important because the main information that are stored into Wikidata are actually items. So and this is like very, very general. So you can have like a concrete element like the earth. Like we all know the earth exists, we can touch it, it's real. Or you can have a concept, an abstract concept that is an entity, like a planet. So a planet, we don't have it, it's not a particular planet, it's only in a head we know that a planet is something that is in space. Earth is a planet. So both of them are a concept. One is concrete, the other is abstract, but they are all an entity into Wikidata. Also, also Wikidata have unique identifiers. That are the real names of Wikidata items. So they all start with a Q. So like for Tchaikovsky, the ID is Q7315, or for Nutcracker, the ballet, it's Q193705. And now in any language, like Q193705 in French is Casse-Noisette. But in English, it's the Nutcracker. But it's still, for Wikidata, the same Q193705. And of course, those are actually machine readable names and very precise names. These unique ID are very, very important because they disambiguate the items. So let's take the Titanic. The Titanic, we all know the Titanic is actually the biggest boat that crashed that sunk in the ocean. So so this one is called Q25173. But there's also a movie done by James Cameron. Now this Titanic is called Q44578 into Wikidata. But if you go further and you search Wikidata, you'll find other Titanics. So let's take this example of Q1889132, which is actually a Norwegian music band. So I didn't know it existed until I searched for it, but Wikidata knows Titanic is also a Norwegian music band. So that's for the first key concept. The second key concept we're going to look at is the property. So in the triplets, the Nutcracker has composer Piotr Tchaikovsky. The relation in between the Nutcracker and Tchaikovsky is that Tchaikovsky is the composer of the music of Nutcracker. So being a composer is the property, which links the two items together. All properties are also have a unique identifier, and this one begins with the letter P. So for composer, it's P87. So every work that has a composer that has music related that was created will have the property composer and the value that's linked to it. So that is for property. Of course, there's far fewer properties than there are items. We'll see later on the proportion, but properties are restrained in their creation. Not everybody can create properties, and there's a whole process, a collaborative process, to make sure we don't create useless properties and we have the fewest possible properties, but the good and precise properties. So that is for property. So in our triplet, the last element is the value. So we have the value here that we have is Tchaikovsky. Now, sometimes values can be another items. So in this case, Tchaikovsky is, of course, an item, starts with letter Q. But values can also be literal values. So it could be a number, it could be a date, it could be a geographical coordinate, it could be an URL, an image, a link to an image on Wikicommons, or any type of character string. So this is important. But there's a lot of other vocabulary than the three concepts we just looked at. So I really strongly suggest that you go, once you have the time, into the Wikidata glossary, and that you take a look, wonder about, scroll the page and see the terms that are used. It's very helpful to get a grip on the concepts of the Wikidata. Now those three elements actually are used to build a statement. So we have an item, a property, and a value, and that in itself, which also is called sometimes triple, is a statement. So in Wikidata, so that's the name for it. Now here we're going to use in this numerical world. there is a few different ways of saying saying these words. So we use the Wikidata statement, so item, property, value wording. That's the wording we use. But if you come from a more general a computer background, or if you might have heard of RDF, which are actually resource description framework. So this is so there's a lot of people that could use this vocabulary to talk to you about these things. Or in plain language, actually, there's also like things, two things, and the relation between the two things. So that's our different ways of saying the same thing. You understand that here, since we're into the Wikidata world, we're going to insist on using item, property, values, as this is this is the vocabulary we use. So here's a few sample triplets. So we have nutcrackers, but let's start with this sentence, this human sentence. The Nutcracker is a ballad composed by Tchaikovsky. Now this is interesting because from this sentence, we can generate three triples. So the first one is the Nutcracker as a composer, which is Tchaikovsky, the one we've already seen. But there's another one that we can deduce by ourselves, is that Nutcracker is an instance of ballet, which is actually the way of Wikidata of saying Nutcracker is a ballet. So, so this is the second triple we can extract from this phrase. But there's a third one we can also extract. So instead of modifying like the Nutcracker, we can say that Tchaikovsky has an occupation of being a composer, because since he composed at least one ballet, we can understand he has the occupation of being a composer. So those three triples are actually deduced from the same human phrase. So here's the same information, but presented in our vocabulary and in this table. So the first element is the Nutcracker, the property is composer, and the value is Tchaikovsky for the first one. For the second one, it's the same subject, so it's still Nutcracker. Still, property now is an instance of, and the value is ballet. And the third triple we had was like Tchaikovsky as the occupation of being a composer. So it's, oops. And so see here we've put the identifier so that you can really see how this is stored, how it's manipulated inside Wikidata. And so this is the same one, but just the view that Wikidata really managed behind the scene. So it's really internal way of working. It only needs the identifiers put together in a triple. And here we have a graphic representation of the same thing. So we have elements, the Nutcracker, and those are property, instance of, composer. And Tchaikovsky, of course, here he's receiving this property, but himself also, he has a property that is being a composer. So quick figures about Wikidata. There's about 87 million different entities right now into Wikidata, but there's only 7,705 properties. So when I told you there were much more entities than properties, we can see at least 1,000 more and 10,000 more. So we also have 25,000 active users. So people that are coming at least once per month to make modification to Wikidata. So that's quite a few people. And there's also 311 robots. So robots are actually coded logic that applies itself to Wikidata, or either to get data in, either to clean data that's already in, or either to export data from Wikidata. So robots are very important, and we will not cover that into in the workshop, but it's fun to know. You'll see them working sometimes, making modification. And of course, Wikidata is also your contribution. So I've put here a link at the end for the statistic. Now, this you can go after checking that. You'll see a lot of information about what exists right now into Wikidata. So let's the first Q1 is universal. Wikidata starts from the beginning, let's say. There are 31% of instances that are scientific articles. So we see that scientifics have took a lot of place into Wikidata, but that, of course, is going to evolve. And there's 10% of all the information, the declaration into the entities or the item into Wikidata that are human. So it's 6 million people are into Wikidata. I'd be curious to know how many of them are already dead or not, but let's take the figure 6 million out of 8 billion human beings that are living now. We see that Wikidata is not complete, but it could be more complete.